I'm deeply grateful for all the work and initiative and the material support that made it possible for me to be in Montreal and take part in these events. And thank you for coming. This is a great turnout. There are going to be a couple of short films and some discussion, some comments from me, that is, and then I hope we can move into discussion before too long. I think that's always the most interesting part. 40 years ago, we are now at the 40th anniversary of the events of May 68. The French May would have been right in the middle of the 2 or 3 weeks of unfolding insurrection there, which ended up with 10 million people on strike, the occupations movement, that whole exciting thing that was cut short, essentially, I think most importantly by the left, by the unions, the parties that control the unions. And yeah, I've been on the road somewhat. I know there's been a lot of commentary, what was that all about, and so forth. I've actually only read one article, but it was interesting in itself, I think, in terms of our context here and some of these themes. This was a few days ago, I forget which day, a piece in the New York Times called 40 Years Later, a Would-Be Revolution in Paris is Still a Puzzle. And it's kind of a standard thing, you know. It kind of rehearses much of what a lot of people know who either were around at the time or read about it. But what I thought was interesting is that twice, in a not real long article, it talks about a spirit of anti-industrialism. And I wasn't aware of that. I mean, I wasn't in France at the time, but I don't really remember that being brought up. It's kind of good to hear that. And we know, it's been said many times, that history is written from essentially from the consciousness and from the needs of the present, the people that are writing the history. And I think this is probably a case of that, because there's something going on, there's something afoot. I think another example, last night, in a similar vein, in terms of very recent signs, if you will, and that is at the excellent, I think it's the third annual Anarchist Drama Festival. Yes. It's a rough translation, I guess. The part, I'm referring to the part by the Committee for the End of the World, which was great. It was so funny. And it ended with a very explicitly anti-civilization wind-up. I mean, how did that happen? You know, I mean, in other words, there's something coming on, and obviously not everybody's thrilled with that. You know, that's making its appearance in different countries in different ways, and there is no one central dogma or program, but what is now commonly called primitivism is emerging. And I think most obviously it's because of the crisis, which is right in our faces in so many ways, in a very stark way. But, you know, we have to, well, we don't have to, but we can think about why are some people so hostile? Why not ask certain questions? Why not add this to the dialogue, to the discourse in society? It seems like it's past due. It seems like it's something that's really needed. But another editor of Green Anarchy magazine, about a week ago, in communication with Noam Chomsky, just for example, our good friend Professor Chomsky said that, and this is a quote, "Anarcho-primitivism is the call for the genocide of billions of people." You know, in other words, not the perhaps unintended consequence of these crazy ideas, but the call for the genocide of billions of people. I mean, they're both just unbelievable, but to say that anarchists want I mean, it's just so incredible that you really wonder what's going on there. I, for example, am a genocidist. I'd never heard that term before, but you know, well, we want genocide, so we're genocidists, you know. Thank you, Chomsky, and other people here and there, locally and so forth. Yeah, but it's remarkable to me. Some people continue to embrace what has turned out so fucking badly. Domination of nature, civilization, domestication, industrialization, the world that by every day that goes by is more technified, meaning that we're more and more mediated from each other and from the natural world. Mass society, the whole ballgame. Progress with a capital P. You know, I just wonder, have they have no touch with reality? Do they not even ever read the paper? It's quite remarkable. I mean, as if we're not in this deepening, totalizing crisis in which inner nature is as remorselessly battered as outer nature. In other words, the personal and social existence is being smacked just as hard as the physical environment. And I'll probably talk about that more tomorrow night instead of, I mean, and everybody knows that anyway. I mean, there's no reason to go through an endless litany with, perhaps in my case, special attention to the US, which is a much more pathological culture. But all of the developed countries, the most developed countries, are the weirdest and the scariest. You know, Japan, US, Germany, and so forth. It's something of a measure of that. You know, and that's no accident. But I was in Brazil. That's where I got this shirt, by the way, in February, and I got some excellent literature. Here it is. And you know, when I spoke there, I had the chance to speak there, and I got some of the excellent booklets and so on. And I got this one, and I just held it up and I said, there's no reason for some big lecture. You all know all this stuff, and this says it perfectly. Anyway, this, maybe you can't see this very well, but the graphic shows these people going up this cliff and then plunging over. And it says in Portuguese, we've come this far, we can't go back now. You know, there it is. That kind of wraps it up. Anyway, this first film is from Serbia. It's just 6 minutes long. It's pretty unconventional, and I don't know what you'll make of it. I was in Amsterdam when this was screened, and somebody shouted out, "Amen!" afterwards, and everybody laughed, you know. But just in passing, and I don't know if everybody perceives this as a spiritual approach or not, but I just want to throw out the idea, and I first heard this in Croatia. Somebody said, I think this primitivist thing is at base a spiritual movement. And I said, what do you mean by that? Wow, that sounds interesting, you know. And so, who knows, maybe that's been the missing thing somehow, whatever that means. And surely it means various things to various people. Probably another thing that various people don't like, for that matter. You know, one of the lines I stole from a friend of ours. This story is kind of interesting in itself, I think, because it elaborates just a little on that idea of the picture taken from the moon of the blue Earth, and famous in posters and so on. There was a get-together